It's the 26th day of May 2024. My brain just stopped on me. Hi everybody, I'm going to be your host. That's the wrong one. We'll get there. I'm Dana Durnford. I'm also known as the Nuclear Proctologist.org. You can call in at 709 589 4406. 4406. Hope everybody had a good weekend. We had nasty weather. Spring is supposed to start this week, I hope. It's been pretty rough. It's literally freezing out there right now, which kind of just shocked me. Excuse me for my... Let me get this sorted out. So exactly one day after our last video on the die-off, which is was 2 hours 42 minutes 28 seconds, I had 42 thumbs up. At 18 hours later, I had 47 thumbs up. Is that right? No, 18 hours later, I went back to... Let me find it. I smurfed up. I think I did. 18 hours later, so 42 hours later, I went backwards to 42 thumbs. So I was up to 47 thumbs. On Saturday. And let me go backwards, I guess. Yeah, so let's start off here. We had, the video was 2 hours and 44 minutes and 34 seconds. And 12 hours later, it was 2:42:28. So we lost a couple of minutes off the video. They hacked out the video 12 hours later. That's why it's so important to watch these videos in the first 12 hours, because this has been going on for a long time, and now it's gone crazy. Not instead of adding 6 or 7 seconds onto the video, they're hacking out multiple minutes. So they could hack out 5 minutes and put in a couple of minutes of deep fake, and then have I don't know how I screwed up that anyway. Bear with me. I'll have to do it again tomorrow night, I guess, because I lost track of it. I was going to do a video yesterday just to call him out on it because of the madness. I mean, it's madness when you're hacking out. And so I lost 7 thumbs anyway. 7 thumbs up. It was almost 48 hours later, and I had back to 42 thumbs with 224 views. And with 160... 184, is it? I can't even tell. 181 viewers or something. I had 47 thumbs up. But when I got 223 views, I only got 42 thumbs up. This is madness, right? And this has been going on since I had the site. Deliberate target. They don't do it to anybody else's site. But just to be clear, I like to make a point of it as often as I can at the beginning of the videos. Alright, I didn't plug in the external. A glimpse into the life of Fukushima workers. Hang on. My apologies. There we go. Now we're good and rolling. Should International Atomic Energy Agency detail how endless the perpetual radioactive fallout from the nuclear fuel pools do not end up in the farms that are surrounding all nuclear power plants? So a typical nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms as far as you can see. Hang on here. So a typical nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms. We'll get there in a second. The typical nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms as far as you can see. And so the question is, how does the emissions, because the fuel when it goes in the pool is still splitting atoms. All right, I think we're finally on track. It's madness. So how does the fuel pools that are hemorrhaging radiation, because the reactor cores that are in the fuel pools is usually, these plants are very old plants, so you're talking 8-10 reactor cores in a fuel pool that are still splitting atoms. And almost every single nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms. Just one of the most important questions humanity has not got an answer to is how that doesn't end up in the farm and poison you and your loved ones, and particularly your children and the vulnerable elderly. The people that built the country. A glimpse into the lives of workers. So this was 2016. A glimpse into, why not have a detail look? Why have a glimpse? Japan is still recovering. That was 2016. It'll be recovering for at least 1,000 years. Well, actually, 250,000 years or more. The damage at the nuclear plant were catastrophic, and the meltdowns caused 1,500 dead and 90,000 people to flee their homes. It was actually almost 500,000 people that fled their homes. But each year, they lowballed the numbers, and now they ended up in 2016 with 90,000 instead of 500,000. Many workers are living away from their families as they reconstruct. These are the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society. These are not academics, nuclear scientists. As they reconstruct and decontaminate the site. You can't reconstruct it, which is quite the interesting statement, actually, reconstruct. The plant is permanently shut down, so why would you reconstruct it? And decontaminate the site. You can't decontaminate a nuclear meltdown site. Donneray and Handford will be decontaminated before Fukushima is ever decontaminated. Or Japan, because it's not just Fukushima, right? Masaya Yahara, who works on protecting against groundwater. And so they used to say there was 7,000 people on the site every day, and 6,000 are working on stopping the water from getting into the Pacific Ocean. And we've covered those headlines, those stories, several hundred times. Says he's disappointed by the people who voiced negative opinions of his dangerous job. So first off, he's not a professional. He's not a university educated. He's a homeless or destitute or victim of society. But the criticism also keeps him working hard to prove them wrong. And so I think anybody who wrote stories like this should be dropped inside a reactor 3 or reactor 4. These are scumbags, because the evidence, if you're a journalist and you don't know the buildings are gone, you're not a moron, you're a scumbag. Because there's not a journalist out there that wrote about Fukushima didn't see that picture. Or that one. And to suggest that anything was different than the truth means they're no longer journalists, and then they should be spit on every time you see them. You're talking about reactor 3 and reactor 4 plus reactor 1 and reactor 2. Like, each of these buildings is worse than all nuclear meltdowns combined worldwide that we know about. And there's 4 of them. And they're infinitely worse than all nuclear meltdowns on top of that. Particularly Medusa, reactor 3. Kobayashi, who works on water purification, 2016. This is a ludicrous assertion, of course. Said the experience working at the disease factory was rewarding. And he learned something new each day. Yeah, like, don't go over there and don't go over here, because that's where all the other homeless people had died. They couldn't get back into the control room for 7 years, and then they haven't been back since. It's a nuclear wasteland. These are multiple nuclear meltdowns that threw the fuel rods and fuel pools and reactor cores over the entire site. Oh, and planet. Lying comes so natural to them that they shouldn't be allowed to have fingers or a tongue, right? Fukushima operator apologizes for not announcing his nuclear reactors were in meltdown. That's 2016. And there's actually a headline about that out there. Oh, well, it was an egregious lie. Have a nice day. Not realistic. The Canadian Natives communities in Ontario may not even vote on the nuclear waste plan in 2024. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization probably had a party on the weekend with that announcement. That's exactly what they want, right? And hopefully they don't. No one says, yeah, go ahead and put it here. Why would you put it in a community surrounded by farms? Plans to bury Canada's high level, it's being pretty polite, and it's all splitting atoms. Once you're going to be splitting atoms on the highways for 138 years, bringing it there, because everything's vented the entire time. 5.6 million used nuclear fuel bundles worth under 1,500 acres of farmers' fields. It's insane that they do that, though, to condition people in increments over time. All right, well, there's just farmers' fields. Everything is vented. A quarter mile or a square kilometer at the surface, 250 acres, is going to be the site. It's going to be a square kilometer. That's how big the site is going to be. And then the other 1,250 acres, they're going to keep farming because you're always hemorrhaging radiation and you want to move the radiation to the supermarkets, right? To poison you. And so you're too worried about taking care of your children and your loved ones and yourself than you are about they're murdering your planet and everybody else. These are just, the whole country should be gone to war against these people for doing this. Under 1,500 acres of farmers' field, according to the Non-Waste Management Organization, the project will move forward without the approval of the Ojibway Nation or the local municipalities of South Bruce. It won't move forward without a referendum. Have scheduled a community referendum to make a decision that affects all Canadians, the 8 million species, and everybody else on the planet. A deep hole in the ground. They call it a geological repository. But see, when you drill down, then it's no longer a deep geological repository because you drill down there. And then you build structures down there. You've done blasting down there. It no longer has its integrity. And why would you put it in a major farming community like where all the other nuclear power plants are too? It's just another reason why we have that poll tonight. Should the International Atomic Energy Agency detail how endless radioactive fallout from nuclear disease factories known as fuel pools do not end up in the farms? Well, they can't. I like to hear their version of it, though. They've never come out and acknowledged fuel is still splitting the atoms. And we're killing it tonight, are we? Got 11 people on the video. Holy shit, that's amazing. Where the hell did everybody come from? Is nobody else working on the planet? How can we get 11 people on our show? How the frig does that even work? I can't believe 11 people care about nuclear. 5 or 6, sure, but 11 people? That's hard to imagine. Imagine how desperate you are when you censor me this much. Imagine how evil you got to be to censor me that much. Really, though. Imagine what kind of stupid inbreed you got to be to do something like this. The municipality of South Bruce, who have scheduled a community referendum on the project, a community referendum. That doesn't even make any sense, right? You're talking about people who've been told their whole life is like a banana and a potato chip and walking in sunshine and getting on an airplane. And they're going to make a decision that affects everybody on the planet, let alone Canada. And they're the first ones to get poisoned, too. They got the money for 18 years. 19, almost, I guess it's 19 years now. The Nuclear Waste Non-Waste Management Organization is the proper name for the Nuclear Waste Management Organization. Is non-waste. 18 years, 19 years, $26 billion. They grew no interest on the money, or they stole all the interest, more realistically. And they threw it around like confetti. Yeah, have $1 million, man. Don't worry about it. You don't have to vote in our favor. They don't. Like, why? They don't have a referendum for anything else in nuclear, only a deep geological repository in a community, which they know nobody's going to want. So 18 years with no holes in the ground yet, or at least another 18 years before they get another place sorted out that they're going to have a referendum on, right? Worldwide, it's accepted as the right thing to do. It's not worldwide accepted. This is the industry's version. There is no consensus. To put its used nuclear fuel, which is 97% intact, well beneath the ground where it can be contained and safely stored, said the municipality South Bruce Mayor Mark the Gizmo Head. His dad was the guy who originally, 12 years ago, invited the Nuclear Waste Management Organization, and now he's the mayor, and he signed a memorandum of understandings. Because nobody else matters, only him, right? He's God. In a little town of 4,000 people, he's the God. And how much money does he get when this organization has $26 billion growing interest every day? How hard is it to give him a couple of $1 million? How hard is it? It's not hard at all, right? In January 2020, members of the Saugeen Ojibway Nation voted overwhelmingly against the plans to bury Ontario low and intermediate level nuclear waste within 2 kilometers of Lake Huron. If you build it within the hundreds of miles of Lake Huron, it's still going to contaminate it. You can't contain it. Everything is vented. They're going to repackage everything at the surface, they claim, which means everything is definitely vented. Like, they even vent the low-level waste from Los Alamos National Laboratory to New Mexico, to the Waste Isolation Pilot Project, where they got rid of the word project and put in plant. Yeah, it was terrible weather this weekend, my goodness. And I worked all day Friday because you got to get the motors ready, and I got the motors ready. Still haven't tried to start them. I got the life jackets and flares, and I got a big list of other stuff. So we're in pretty good shape. Just bear with me. I'm looking for a video from the Nuclear Waste Management Organization in New Mexico. It's all about the keywords, isn't it? Here we go. Oh, that one didn't like me. Let's do that again. That one didn't like me. And one more time here. Or maybe I'm making a mistake. Who knows? They didn't work, so I don't know what the hell is going on. There's no reason they shouldn't work. Let's just hang on a second, see if I load any more besides those two. Not looking good. But they've always worked before, so how come they're not working tonight? Let me try one more trick here. Because we've dragged up that clip every month or 2 months or so. I didn't do any updates, so there's no reason it shouldn't work. Yeah, it's not working. Let's keep going. So I was going to play a clip of the waste isolation pilot plant, right? Whip. I was going to play a clip of the waste isolation pilot project. Salt trucks, and I got everything else. Oh, here's another version. Oh, that one's going to work. I like it. Let's play that one. This is a seated audience, by the way. This is a public meeting in New Mexico, or close to New Mexico's waste isolation pilot project. And they're asking, is everything vented? Which is strange, because nobody normally would ask that question.
Are you still getting such waste that's not vented?
So talking about waste coming in from Los Alamos National Laboratory, are you still getting waste that's not vented? Which is one of the strangest questions I heard from a little community. So obviously this is a plant.
And that could be a problem.
Okay, so that's a great question. So let me answer it more generally. There are no containers at WIP that are unvented.
There is no containers unvented because everything is splitting atoms.
There's a requirement that all containers that come to WIP have to be vented. And
so because it's coming from Los Alamos National Laboratory all the way to the waste isolation pilot project in New Mexico, and everything is vented, which means you're releasing radiation on the highway and into the local community. It's just unbelievable.
that's not just a requirement for us to receive. It's also a requirement for the licenses that control the TRUPACs that all this waste is shipped in. The containers have to be vented.
And what they're talking about is insanity. And if they're going to be doing it at this place, then they're going to do it at every other place. Now, what they're talking about is low-level waste. It's still very, very dangerous, but it's low-level compared to the fuel rods for Ontario, Canada. The biggest question facing the native voters will be whether containing the radioactive waste in underground containers is the safest thing to do. And it's not. It will melt down at some point, and sooner than later. It can't be avoided when you don't deal with it. And so the waste they're shipping to the Nuclear Waste Management or the WIP is legacy waste from the Manhattan Project, and that has to be vented because it's still splitting atoms. It's a very disgusting industry, and the people in it they're really worthless humans. They're the very definition of worthless, of lower class, lower caste. Columbia robotics students compete in a nuclear competition. They got Yale and Stanford and Oxford and MIT. And no. They got high school students, age 16 to 18. And the essential challenge is to develop a small robot that can transport a mock nuclear waste barrel. I'm surprised. They're probably using a real one. They're just going to put that there in the media. But this is how this industry got 80 years. They don't know how to transport a 45-gallon drum barrel. Well, the British, those exact people, their parents and their grandparents used to take the nuclear waste in 45-gallon barrels, and put it on ships, on cargo ships, and just drive along the continental shelf in the United Kingdom and throwing it off as they're driving along. Of course, the barrels they're going to implode, probably with the first atmosphere at 33 feet, which is 14.5 pounds per square inch. That's going to make the lid disconnected. So think about a container of butter, margarine, is it? Yeah. And so if you take that a plastic container of anything with a lid on it and squeeze the neck of the container, what's going to happen to the lid? Do you really think the lid is going to just spring perfectly back and grab the whole thing when you let it go? Well, that's what happens to those 45-gallon drums. They're, and the ones that don't sink, that are not quite full and don't sink, they shoot them with rifles. And Britain done that for 36 years. And they knew back then. When they originally built these things, they knew what the waste was. This is why they took it out every day for 36 years in container or cargo ships, where it's now destroying the future of humanity and the 8 million species. And the most precious resource conceivable is water. We have to protect water with every fiber in our body. That's our gods. Like there's 1,000 gods, but which one is the most important? It's your water. The goal is to replicate some real-world challenges within the nuclear fission and fusion decommissioning industry. Is to replicate some real-world challenges within the nuclear fission. They're talking about children at a school are developing how to deal with nuclear waste rather than Harvard University or Yale University or Stanford University or Berkeley University or and the list. These are all experts, aren't they? Why are school children doing this? You despicable monsters. These are despicable monsters. The essential challenge is to develop a small robot capable of transporting a mock nuclear waste barrel, and then they can scale it up and come up. So this is what they're all their hopes and dreams. This is the nuclear waste management of the United Kingdom. After 80 years, still haven't got a friggin' clue how to tie their own shoes. And who are the organizers? They are the Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Collaboration and Industry Solution Hub. You know, people with endless resources, and they got high school children doing a competition to come up with a solution. I was like, you might as well give up on Britain. Britain's a lost society if they're doing this. Developed by the UK Atomic Energy Authority. Like, why would you call them an Atomic Energy Authority when they haven't done anything good? They haven't dealt with anything. The whole country is contaminated from their fumbling, bumbling, idiot, moron children that have got the jobs. It's like the whole story just cries out for war crimes against humanity. The organization aims to accelerate the deployment of robotics and artificial intelligence in nuclear decommissioning and fusion engineering. So you got fusion engineering, can't do it, so they send it to high school children to develop a robot to deal with nuclear waste. And they probably go home and tell their families they're good people. What is your daddy? Oh, he's a nuclear engineer. Oh my God, he must be some smart. And then the kid will blow up laughing. Not really. Daddy's actually stupid. Mommy spends all the time in front of the mirror telling herself she's pretty. It's hard to imagine that the country's still alive with these people in charge. Ah, yes. Can we get some aliens at the mall? Scientists want to lure aliens to Earth with handheld nuclear-powered UFO beams. Project Bloom Beam is right around the corner, folks. Scientists / morons. We've already created a handheld mini nuclear reactor. These are not handheld mini nuclear reactors. Oh, there's a professor from a university involved. There you go. Let's go out and find the lowest form of life and bring them into the conversation, why don't we? Like a professor. If they are placed somewhere in space around Earth, it will draw the aliens to our planet. They'll figure out how to get rid of the 45-gallon barrels, right? This unusual theory, they're claiming they already made handheld nuclear reactors. Professor of physics at the University of Albany, the Soul Foundation in California, Kevin Knuth. They spelled it wrong in this article. It's obviously in UT. We settled on the fact that the UFOs have an interest in and ability to detect nuclear weapons. We settled on the fact. And so we cover this facet of the story because what's going on is there's big releases, sometimes accidentally, sometimes on purpose, and many times on purpose, at nuclear sites. And it causes these incredible aberrations in the sky over the site from the neutron bombardment, the beta rays, the gamma shines, the X-rays. So you'll get these bursts of like blue flashes and that. And over a lot of these sites have major releases, right? They don't tell the population. They burn it in the incinerators all the time. They have pipes going directly into the ocean at the nuke disease factories. People, for some reason, call power plants. Some of them are underground, some of them in bunkers or in storage depots. Nuclear weapons. My colleagues has developed a new technology which is basically a handheld lithium-powered nuclear fission reactor which he is now patenting. Oh, well, we would have heard about it a long time ago if there's such a thing. One of the biggest hotspots for UFO sightings all over America are military bases, where nuclear missile silos and power plants. I got a friend of mine is an engineer in the Navy, and he joined I think he was 18 or something. And it's kind of a funny story, really, because I went to join the Navy. I went to join the Air Force, and of course I'm not a West Point type candidate, obviously, right? And so they said I could be a radio operator, and I would carry a sophisticated radar with an antenna would blast my brain cells all day and I'm on my back. And then my superiors, because everybody there's a superior to a grunt, I could be their little pet table, right, for their radios. And so when he told me that, I was like, well, I don't want to join. He said, well, you can't quit. So anyway, I was trying to work out, how do you quit? How do I get out? Because I was only we're in for the 3-day indoctrination, the first 3 days. So you had to see a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist, well, you're healthy, you passed all your exams. And he said, so the only question I got for you, he said, you ever smoke any marijuana or something like that? Mary Jane. I said, oh, yeah, man. And he said, well, when was the last time? And he winks at me, like 9 months ago, a year ago. I said, no, just about 20 minutes ago before I came in here. And he said, you sure it wasn't 9 months ago? And he winks at me again. I'm like, no, it's like 20 minutes ago. I probably still got a roach in my pocket. He said, well, come back in a year and try again. I said, not a fucking chance, buddy. Because when I was stood up in the line and everybody was stood up there in their underwear, and there's this guy sat there on an old, beer chair, and you go up and you drop your pants and you grab you by your nuts and tell you to cough. Turn your head and cough. That was right there. That was like, I am living this. I would have got a Section 8 because there was no way I'm going to participate in it. And then my oldest brother wanted me to join the French Foreign Legion and become an assassin. I was like, yeah, really. And he tried really hard to get me to do it. And I was like, come on, man. You go join it. But anyway, my buddy joined it shortly after that. A very impoverished family. Dad is an alcoholic. No future where he was to. And he went to the Navy and he became what I call a bilge. I used to call him a bilge rat. He became an engineer, right? And you get the best education imaginable, but you're a lackey. And he was telling me 20 years before touchscreens, they were using touchscreens in the Navy. And, it was like when Bill Clinton, after Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton, when he stepped down, released some obsolete technology, and that was lasers. And look at what the lasers have done for industry worldwide ever since, right? But that technology at that time was 50 years old or something. And so they have much more advanced. They're not going to release technology unless they got really advanced technology, right? And so holograms that they've been using for about 20 years would blow your mind 20 years ago. I'm not kidding you either. But the stuff we're seeing is still far behind the stuff they were using 20 years ago. The stuff we're seeing is insane. One of the biggest hotspots for UFO sightings all over America are military bases. Hotspot is military bases, eh? And, nuclear power plants where they have lots of nuclear accidents. And so what you're talking about is a phenomenon that we talked about before of so much gammas, alphas, neutrons, and betas in the atmosphere over it, you create these flashes. And then they've always done this. All nuclear power plants, when they had major releases, and they would go down and kill cows in the local fields at nighttime and surgically cut out like their thyroid glands and their kidneys and stuff like that, and then go to the media, give them a few $1,000 and say, write a story up and say there was UFOs out there killing cows. And so when you go back and look into the arc, and you used to see it all the time in the regs, the daily regs that would show up in the supermarket counter, right? Because everybody would read it, but not everybody bought it. A UFO steals organs from cows, right? Or sheep or something. That was the industry killing the animals to see how much radiation was bioaccumulated in the local stock. It's a despicable industry. No matter how you look at this industry, and there's 9,000 facets to it, and every one of them screams monsters. UFOs were reported several times to have tampered with, and in some cases completely disabled nuclear missiles at these sites. Now, a typical disabled nuclear missile at the sites, there's many ways to disable them. They disable themselves. One of them is they run out of tritium. The tritium doesn't get replenished, and so then they're no longer useful, right? But they get water ingression into these sites. They have serious leaks at these sites. There's neutron bombardment, beta rays, alphas, and everything else from the plutonium, uranium. And it breaks down the integrity of the missile site itself, or the electronics and everything, right? Former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid said in a documentary titled "The Phenomenon That UFOs Have Been Repeatedly Appeared in the Vicinity." These are drones that they're practicing too. They have incredible drones for a very long time. We still haven't seen. If they've been called upon by the president to launch, they couldn't have done it. If they've been called upon to launch the nuclear weapons, they couldn't have been done. I really despise these people. You should too. UK, this is the funniest story all weekend. UK seeks to track 40,000 nuclear zipper heads with skills plan. 40,000. First off, they can't even build their own reactors. I don't know if anybody noticed that over the years. And they come out with these graphics from AI with knowledge and training and experience and learning and cogwheels in people's heads. It's almost like a kindergarten drew it up or something with artificial intelligence. It's so blatant, eh? UK National Nuclear Strategic Plans for Skills has launched. They got another long acronym, a whole bunch of them actually, outlining how the government, which is incapable of doing anything nuclear on its own, which is shocking really, the industry and stakeholders can't collaborate to double the hiring rates and fill out 40,000 new jobs by 2030. It's not very hard to hire 40,000 people. Really, it's not. But when it comes to the nuclear, you're going to wonder, aren't you? The plan supports recruitment across the civil defense sectors. Oh, so they're going to go into the civil defense sectors and recruit some of the 40,000 people, which makes a lot of sense, don't it? Following the government's 2023 announcement of a nuclear renaissance. There is no nuclear revival. There is no nuclear renaissance. Like, the reactors that they're building there now will probably never come to fruition. There's too many other ways to do it. Cheaper, quicker, and without the adverse effects. And, why wouldn't you... Geothermal is actually available. If you took this energy and went to work on geothermal, 40,000 people, and to build geothermal plants across the country, in 10 years' time you would have energy security forever. Nuclear is the opposite of energy security. You poison the entire eco and the biosphere, and so there's no way to survive the future with nuclear. Nuclear has to go. Bollum, the chair of the Now Stood Down, who gobble up how much resources and monetary, Nuclear Skills Task Force, which devised the plan and promoted the potential for long-term career in nuclear. A long-term career poisoning humanity and the 8 million species. Will be delivered by the Nuclear Skills Delivery Group, the NSDG. There's such... like if you see him in a supermarket, you know there's something weird about him. You see him on a sidewalk, walking down the road, you know there's something weird about him when you spot these people. It's impossible to look at him and not saying, I don't like that, whatever the frig that creature is right there. Becky Pleasant, nice name, too bad about the reality though. Nuclear Skills Program Director. And so they give these people these jobs and all of a sudden they're gods and kings, right? Boosting our national security and meeting UK energy needs. Woo-hoo. And cutting emissions. Nuclear is the most resource-intensive thing in human history, bar nothing. It's an energy pig. It needs 2 dedicated gas, oil, and coal plants, for goodness sakes. And spreading prosperity, a.k.a. they're going to run out of places that are surrounded by farms, so they can't build too much. And spreading prosperity across the country, because the only place to build nuclear reactors is in prime farmland. It's the best way to poison everybody, right? It's the best way to keep radiation around the site down is ship the food to the supermarkets that is radioactive. What a disgusting industry. What disgusting people, really. And spreading prosperity across the country. Yeah, because there's a lot of money to be made in cancer and heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory and pituitary and thyroid problems. Because that's what nuclear gives you. It's the opposite of anything good. Work to recruit mid-career entrants will involve collaborations with Destination Nuclear. Destination Nuclear. Honest to goodness, these are actually shit for brains. Is the only way you can legitimately they describe these people as shit for brains. There's no nice way to put it, is it? What does your daddy do? Mommy do? They work for nuclear. Oh, they're shit for brains. Yeah, they're shit for brains. They work for nuclear industry. That's the typical kid, right? My mom is shit for brains. Oh, they work for nuclear industry, do they? Yeah. Work to recruit shit for brain entrants will involve collaboration with Destination Shit for Brain Nuclear, the capital of shit for brains. Lynn Matthews, the program lead for Destination Nuclear Shit for Brains, said Destination Shit for Brain Nuclear is a real game changer. The program is the first sector-wide communication campaign for nuke tarts and provided a focal point to create a national nuclear brand. Who the frig thinks this way or writes like this, really? And importantly, help deliver the UK's nuclear ambitions. Hopefully. That's quite the pipe dream. Oh, yes, we get pictures of them. Look up there. Whatever you can do nuclear. Whatever you do nuclear. Destination nuclear. Anything nuclear can do, geothermal can do it 100 times better and quicker. Destination stupid. It will be delivered by the Nuclear Idiot Delivery Board and the Nuclear Shithead Executive Council. They got all these grandiose ideas and nothing will come to fruition. Just like everything else nuclear touches, it destroys it. We're delivering the biggest expansion of nuclear power in 70 years. Why did you wait 70 years? And need a homegrown pool of inbreeds that will fuel our nuclear disease factories. Good luck on that. I can't see them going anywhere with it. Even though they got highly skilled, really? Highly skilled? What are you talking about? It's nuclear. Well-paid jobs, because they're the only ones that matter. Like Israel, they're the only ones that ever been attacked in their lives. Nobody else has ever been attacked, only the Israelis, right? Clean energy. Calling clean energy. Come on, man. Don't stoop that low. Why stoop that low? To help deliver new nuclear for net zero. Don't you just want to kick somebody in the nuts whenever you hear these words? Like, there should be a place where nuclear scientists hang out and people are allowed to go there and kick them in the nuts so they can get rid of their frustration, because that'll work. You know, if there's a legal way to kick them in, you can legally kick them in the nuts, right? Like the International Atomic Energy Agency, if you're allowed to stand out in front of them when they're going to work, you're allowed to hit them with a baseball bat. That would be good for the souls, wouldn't it? So Miles Allen wrote a paper on net zero, and then UN grabbed it and used it. He's the physicist behind net zero, Professor Miles Allen. He got a nice cushy job at Cambridge now. And understanding climate change. So he wrote a paper by himself, and the United Nations says, hey, we can use this to demonize everybody on the planet. This is great. And Idiot Nuclear, to help deliver new nuclear for net zero. But nuclear is the most resource-intensive industry, bar nothing. It's literally the stupid industry imaginable. And the worst, because it poisons everything for 1 million years. To achieve that, the whole sector must work together to seize this opportunity. And the launch of the skills plan followed the government's announcement in March it would work with the industry to invest at least less than $1 billion lousy dollars by 2030. That's some nuclear renaissance you got going on there, and you got to divvy that up with $24,000 a person for 40,000. Sounds like quite the winner to me, don't it? How the Twilight Zone created a nuclear apocalypse for time enough at last. What's the Twilight Zone? You know, you ever watch the original Twilight Zone episodes from the 60s? Don't quote me, I think they're the 60s. Because they're still black and white for quite a few years before they You start getting color episodes. That was amazing stuff. A lot of people look at people from the 60s as incompetent, right? But they don't make actors and producers like that anymore, special effects. Well, not really special effects, just amazing acting. How the Twilight Zone created the nuclear apocalypse for the Time Enough at Last episode, is it? Most famous episodes. One of the most famous episodes made use of some clever set designs. Yeah, it looks pretty clever, right? Find a derelict place, put an old derelict couch, and put somebody there in a suit and tie. It must have been traumatizing for him to come up with that. Contamination fears stroked by water leak at the German nuclear site. This was Bloomberg. Of course, whenever you get stories like this, you got to be a subscriber to read the story, right? Operators will answer questions Monday. This is crazy. It's the only industry out there that really just scares the shit out of me every day of the week. Water's leaking into an underground nuclear waste facility in Germany, creating fears about toxic... This is Deep Geological Repository, by the way. Contamination of groundwater and highlighting the legacy the shuttered nuclear industry left behind. Leak at the German nuclear site. Deeper than before, because it's been leaking there for quite a few years. Very close to where the radioactive waste is kept. It's within 100 feet of it now. This industry cracks me up. How do you keep getting away with it? Well, they have a lot of sadistic demons working for them, right? Like real life monsters that work for them. I'm not going to mention any names or nothing. Stingfoot. Bird joins the Canadian for the CANDU campaign. Oh, that's why I'm censored tonight, is it? That story. I forgot about that story. Launched by former Prime Minister Jean Chretien, who wanted to put a nuclear dump for TEPCO in Labrador, Canada. And former Ontario Premier Mike Harris promoted deployment of CANDU nuclear technology in Canada. Like, why would you want to give somebody else a CANDU reactor? Right, the emissions from these reactors. Let me show you. It's like unbelievable. As is everything in nuclear, obviously. It's such a self-centered industry. It's happy to kill everything. Well, it has to. It has to consume everything for nuclear to survive. We can't have anything without nuclear and nuclear. Nuclear consumes everything on this planet or it can't survive, right? What the hell did I do wrong, I wonder? Let me try this again. It should be up here somewhere. I'm looking for the CANDU reactors. Now, I've done a 3-hour presentation on the CANDU reactors with oodles of studies articulating why that's the last thing you would want in your country. And the estimated people living within 10 miles of these CANDU reactors can have up to 1 million atoms of tritium in their body because they can't contain their tritium. I can't find it. I can find everything else. Anyway, I guess it doesn't matter. All you need is a great radium suppository, a bit of radium toothpaste, some radium soap, and that's the quickest way to commit suicide is use radium. Oh, I guess I'm stupid today. It makes some serious sense anyway. I can't accept that I can't find that. I apologize, everybody. Well, let's move on. I like it or lump, but I got no choice now. Oh. I got the mother load there, I think. Here we go. And let me copy paste that into where I normally look. That way when I go there next time I'll find it. I made a mess of this. Okay, here we go. Let me go backwards. So CANDU, look at the Sizewell, United Kingdom, Torness in the United Kingdom, 20 trillion atoms, 8 trillion atoms. And that's liquid and vapor. Look at the CANDU reactors. The Canadian are all CANDUs. The Point-le-Peur is 60,400,000 trillion atoms legally each year in the air and liquid. And it doesn't go away for 120 years. And so we got 50, 60 years of these emissions each year. Imagine the bioaccumulation in everything. Like 8 trillion a year from UK legally is still a nutty amount. Even France is still nutty numbers. But the Canadian reactors, every one of them are just, these are nightmares. These are actually nightmares we're talking about. So the campaign, the Jean Chretien and the former Ontario Premier Mike Harris calls on the federal provincial government to support maiden Canadian nuclear technology to help the country reach net zero. Of course, net zero Miles Allen paper. There's no such thing as a net zero. You can't power 1 million homes and call it net zero. The industry is insane. It's planning on exterminating us, see? And so it doesn't want us to come up with solutions because it thinks that it'll get rid of us and it won't need those solutions, right? We are pleased to join the Canadians for CANDU campaign and champion a technology that is the cornerstone of It's not a cornerstone. This is the massive disease factories. You know, they had an accident in Lake Ontario, or Lake Huron or Lake Superior, one of these with the nuclear plants, the Canadian CANDU reactors. And it was 44,000 atoms of tritium per liter. And so the drinking limits in the United Kingdom for tritium, or in California, say, was 18 atoms a liter. Canada's was 44,000 because they contaminated one of the biggest aquifers on the planet. And that the intakes and our outtakes, the discharge of the massive hemorrhaging of tritium isotopes from the CANDU reactors on Lake Ontario, for instance, are right alongside the intake for Toronto, for millions of people. They don't engineer something like that accidentally. The collaboration reinforces the Canadians' role as a builder and exporter of world-class disease factories. Bird executive Mac Cronin, the firm's ambassador for the campaign. So Bird Construction or something, is it? It's Bird. I got it there somewhere. Yeah, Bird Construction. So Teri McKibbon, the CEO of Bird Construction, said we'll poison everybody in Canada so we can get some contracts with the nuclear industry and make a bunch of money. So like evil just seems to come natural, don't it? Pollution concerns arises water leaks. These are, when you call it the word, whenever you hear the word leak in nuclear, it's a major event going on. And you use the word leak to downplay it. And it works. It's worked for 80 years. People buy into it for 80 years. It's the storage nuclear deep geological repository in Germany. It's about to be flooded with salt water. When you flood a deep geological repository full of 45-gallon drums with salt water, what happens, I wonder? Will drums waste or rust away in salt water? First off, they're going to destroy themselves because of the Wigner effect. The neutron bombardments destroys the integrity of the material anyway. where the radioactive waste is kept. And this is really interesting, though. And creating fears of toxic contamination of groundwater and highlighting the legacy the nuclear disease factories left behind. The operator storage site says that salt water is entering deeper than before because it's been going on for years. The salt is an old mine with a crust that serves as a barrier to stop radiation from entering the environment. Salt. You're putting 45-gallon drums down in salt. You got all this moisture. Gee, I wonder what's going to happen to the barrels. There are about 126,000 barrels of uranium, thorium. Like, what are you talking about? Because thorium is created when uranium, 4 billion years later, decays to thorium, right? So you don't get thorium at a nuclear site. But plutonium and uraniums and all the other toxic material, americium, plutonium, strontium, the biggest byproduct of the fuel rods, by the way, is going to be curium. And worries that the leak could lead to a groundwater contamination. It's already contaminated. But putting thorium in there, what a bunch of degenerates. Really, what a bunch of degenerates to put that in there. Water is now leaking into an area 725 meters, 2,400 feet underground. The operator said last week that dangerously close to a storage chamber. If it's leaking 24 feet under the ground, it's 25 meters more to go to get to the fuel. 75 feet away now. So it already leaked through 2,400 feet. It only got 75 feet to go. But it hasn't reached the barrels of waste. A spokeswoman for the operator. A mouthpiece, a lying machine for the operator says, right? Residents and activists filed a legal complaint on Friday asking the state operator to entirely shut the site and remove the toxic waste. What is it? 126,000 times 45 gallons. No, that's not it. Hang on. We'll get there in a second. Nuclear waste recovery, an undertaking which has never been done anywhere. So far, none of the barrels have been removed. Nuclear waste recovery, an undertaking which has never been done anywhere. No, those barrels are already split open. They can't go back in there. This is high level stuff we're talking about. Will not start before 2033. The scientific methods to do it safely are still being investigated. Well, you better throw a couple $100 billion at them. They can't do nothing for $100 billion. 90% of it goes to administration. It's estimated to cost at least 4.7 billion euros, is it? Or sterlings? Euros? Euros, because it's in Germany, right? 4.7 billion to get 126,000 barrels back. Which is 4.7 billion by 126,000 barrels is $37,000 a barrel. That's what it's going to cost them to get each barrel 45-gallon drums. It's an industry that makes sure you get stupider every day. You don't learn something new every day. You get stupider every day. So as well see, we're doing things differently. And look at them all. Try not to laugh. They're like, come on, calm down, everybody. Got to be serious. We're going to take your picture. And you give them everything. You give them the biggest trucks. You give them endless money. You give them all the free land. You give them whatever they ask for. And they're going to steal 90% of it. So you just keep giving it to them. You still can't seem to accomplish anything. In 2021, Sarah joined a sizable sea attracted by a project set to play a big part in Britain's low carbon. Every time I hear that word, I want to kick someone in the nuts in the nuclear industry. So the shithead said she's a local and she grew up near Southwall, and I still live in the area. Well, like Sizewell C, this is the picture they're using, by the way, surrounded by farms. It's just a coincidence. Every single nuclear site, nuclear plant, nuclear dump is surrounded by farms. It's just a weird coincidence, Dana. I'm not trying to do it on purpose and poison you in the supermarkets. As you expect, the nuclear industry has incredibly high standards. Yeah, if you let the International Atomic Energy Agency into your country, you don't have high standards. Our leadership team is over 50% of the females, and directly employed team is 40% females. What's your point, though? That women are more likely to go near the nuclear waste than males? It's such a strange statement, eh? So they can't have babies. Aside from her role at Sizewell C, Sarah has a part-time role as a governor at a college, a governor. She probably has to get her husband to pick her fucking nose for her, making her well placed to lead the charge in collaborating with local schools, colleges, and universities, which has all been infiltrated by the nuclear companies anyway, to upskill the next generation of nuclear degenerates. They never give us a break, do they? They find the stupidest, most maniacal and sadistic people, and they make them governors of the universities. You know, like Geraldine Thomas, for instance. AI fired nukes in a war simulation because they wanted peace in the world. That's probably one of the best headlines I've seen in a long time. It makes perfect sense too, right? They were programmed by nuclear, so that makes sense, eh? Well, if we don't use nuclear, we'll in a billion years we'll have peace. See, right? That's them doing a presentation. We need more nuclear AI, so if we have a nuclear war, then after the war, when the survivors will have peace. Tumors everywhere. And extra legs and arms, so they're more productive, Dana. A new study using AI in foreign policy decisions found how quickly the tech could call for war instead of finding peaceful resolutions. So artificial intelligence created by them is a maniac. Wow, I'm really shocked. That's incredible. Some AI in the study even launched nuclear warfare with little or no warning, giving nuke-tarts strange explanations for doing so. Well, give us peace, god darn it. And meta in war simulations as the primary decision makers. So you got war simulators, give them artificial intelligence, and they're going to make the prime decision. They already got the artificial intelligence drones running down soldiers in Ukraine and Russia. You just put a little circle around them, the drone will chase them, and then it'll run into them and blow them up. Coming to a street corner near your children and friends and family soon. AI and nukes, an unimaginable threat. Decoding the dangers of doomsday algorithms. That's true, I suppose. Won't be long before he shows up. In fact, you can buy one of them now for about $12,000. It'll be out in a couple of months. But the same height as a normal human, dexterity. And you can just take them and manipulate their fingers and arms, and then they can remember to do things. Oh yeah, stupid is right around the corner, folks. AI kamikaze drones are becoming a staple of modern warfare. A staple. Bear with me here now. AI. Let me see if I can find it. The whole story is insane, isn't it? Ukraine, there we go. I mean, my goodness, some of this stuff is just... So they use drones to run people to the ground and blow them up. I'm going to play a video. It's going to be hard to watch for some people, but this is what they're doing. And if you don't have a conversation about it, cops will be using it on your loved ones in the near future. Oh, they were stood up in a no stood up zone. We had to blow them up. Oh, maybe I'm lucky. Won't find one. Don't give up on me, Dana. Or I think that's it there. Let me play it. Yeah, that's it there. Here we go. I'm going to bring it up on the screen for you. So you got a drone, and the drone is, what they do is they just tap on Buddy and highlight them, and then the drone hunts them to the ground. It'll chase them around till it runs out of battery juice or blows them up. But it's also programmed to try to blow them up before it runs out of battery juice. So it's going to go in and look at him there. He's going to throw something at it. And the drone knows right to avoid stuff like that. And too bad, you're gone. Hey, come here, why don't you? Is that not the most terrifying thing imaginable, that a drone with a bomb on it will come out and just blow you up? So how evil are you when that's considered acceptable, and when that doesn't bother you? If that bothers you, then you're very normal. If that terrifies you, you're exceptionally normal. That if you're fucking mortified by that and you think it's disgusting, there's hope for Earth. There's no hope for them. There's no way to avoid it. They'll just keep sending drones till they blow them up. And it's like, come here, why don't you? Look at Buddy, look, scrambling for his life. There's no way to survive. There's no way you're going to beat the drone. The drone will just run you down. It's thinking all the time, and then, oh, you fell down, let's blow him up. And they got multiple drones in the air. Look at Buddy running for his life. And this is insane. And so it's not like there's a guy there chasing them. This is artificial intelligence. Now, sometimes the controller will pick it up. But that's the nuclear industry for you. That's exactly what the nuclear industry actually is. It's stupid. It's unimaginable, isn't it? And don't think the nuclear industry doesn't play a part in stuff like that. A lot of these bombs are dirty bombs on top of that. China demands expanded survey of soil, pre-treated water at Fukushima. And Japan rejects the demand, citing international standards. China has demanded that Japan expand the scope of its environmental assessment. So they're demanding that TEPCO do more samples. The worst organization imaginable is in charge. Instead of China demanding they go and take their own samples. This is meant to perpetuate the lie of the tritium, right? Japan rejected the demand on grounds that it said that have been carrying out necessary research based on the International Atomic Energy Agency standards. Standards. Did you know the International Atomic Energy Agency had standards? I know, everybody's laughing at me. Come on, Dana. They got no standards. And you're right, of course. La 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 la. Let me see where I'm to here. There we go. Let's keep rolling. We feel no will on the Chinese side to make progress on the issues of treated water, government officials said. Like the industry thinks that if when my video is over and I only have one view, that'll somehow deter me, or that if I only got 10 people on my show, that somehow will stop me or change the way that I do my shows. They're crazy. Like, you're literally going to be crazy if you think that's going to sway me. But it shows everybody coming to the show. You're left with a question of, how can you be doing a show for over a decade and only have 20 people in your show? So then they know, right? It's just intuitive. We feel no will on the Chinese side to make progress at the time of the treated water, government officials said. A government official. Somebody that hates life and the 8 million species with everything in their body. Just bear with me here. So treatment on the treated water. First off, the reactors are gone. Right, they claim they got all the fuel out of the pool of this building, reactor 3, and all the fuel, or reactor 4, and all the fuel out of reactor 3 fuel pools. There's no fuel pools or buildings left. Like reactor 3, look up explosions of reactor 3 and then tell me where the fuel pool is to. Right, it's all over the planet. But as for the ALP system, in 2014, August the 9th, you can go read that story, they announced at the end of August that they think they finally have the ALPS decontamination system operational. That was it in 2013. You can go read this story right here. And that was one of the press releases where they were building the ALPS system. But in August 2014, because this was in February, so this is a year and a half later, they still didn't have it built or 100% operational. But you can't filter water from these facilities. So if I pour water over the remains per liter, and say this was a pipe, for instance, carrying the water from the site to the filtration system, if you get within 10, 15 feet of this pipe, that's a lethal dose. The pipe has to be at least 6 feet thick lead. Or the hoses or whatever. It can't be done. Because like anything, in order to pump it, you got to use electronics, so that's going to get destroyed right away. Now the filtration system, you try to filter water after you pour it over and become particulated, you need multiple sieverts per liter. So once you run it for 20 minutes through a filter at the alleged ALP system, then you can never get near the site again because the filters are going to be lethal doses from hundreds of feet away. Right, so remember, this is the same industry. This is the original footage right there. It's the first couple of days. But the media in less than 2 weeks was out there saying that they fixed this reactor. They fixed it with liquid glass, which was sawdust and newspaper and some glue, and then they fixed it. Like, this is an industry that's not supposed to exist, and that is threatening humanity in 8 million species. This study from France is 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air 9 days after Fukushima. But this is another one. This is the French government, right? The other one. And this is the French government's updated model based on 31 days altogether. And so right here, coming up, you're at 15 days after the last reactor blew up. And that plume never stops. It covers the whole planet. Right now you're coming up on 30 days. That's 30 days. Right there. So you got 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air covering the entire planet, and the meltdown still never stopped. And this is only 30 days later. This is April the 4th, 2011. It's madness, isn't it? So, like, there is no filtration system. Let me explain one more thing about this, though. Seeing as I'm here and the big mess that I already got, there's one more video that I need to play. That I got to play this a lot because this is the BBC, late 2013. They're talking about Reactor 4. And they're showing you this picture, by the way, and in 2013, this building was stripped down. Right, so this is the guy up in the top corner in 2013. I'm going to play a video for you. BBC Rupert Winfield Hayes, a few months later, claims he's at the top of the building in the fuel pool, and they're getting fuel out of the reactor's fuel pool. Just let me play this, because they're talking about the 1,000 tanks, and they're saying in 2013 the 1,000 tanks are full.
The Fukushima plant sits smack in the middle of an underground aquifer. Deep beneath the ground, the site is rapidly being overwhelmed by water. Beneath the surface, water flows downhill and into the basement of the damaged reactor buildings. There it is contaminated with high levels of radiation. To stop the groundwater flowing on into the nearby ocean, engineers are building an underground barrier. But that is causing the groundwater level to rapidly rise. It's now so high the water will soon reach the surface. Then it will start flowing overground into the sea. This week, the company that owns Fukushima, TEPCO, made this disturbing admission.
We understand that this water discharge is beyond our control, and we do not think the current situation is good.
Outside experts say it's now clear TEPCO is incapable of handling the cleanup at Fukushima. It's time for the Japanese government to step in. The situation is already beyond what TEPCO can handle, he says. If it were possible to take proper measures, they would have done it already. It's not as if TEPCO is refusing to do what they can. They're doing everything they can, but there are no perfect solutions. Even if the government does step in, it's not clear what it can do. The only other solution is to pump out the contaminated groundwater and put it in storage tanks. But after just 2 years, the site is already jammed with more than 1,000 giant tanks. Most of them are already full up. At least 400 tons of new water pours into the site every day, and it's going to continue for years and years. Fukushima's water crisis has only just begun. Rupert Wingfield Hayes, BBC News in Tokyo.
In 2012, a year later, it was 865,000 extra cancers. In 2019, there was a study that 14.2% out of 100,000 live births needed open heart surgery for congenital malformations. There was another study of 13,646 out of 40,000 children with thyroid tumors over 2 centimeters. An adult thyroid is actually 3 by 5 centimeters. So a child is very small. So you're talking about tumors the size of their thyroid. And because radiation is not going to kill it, there is mass heart attacks. I forget what the numbers are. Just give me a second. Like there's so many 6 out of 10 Fukushima children with diabetes. The health problems are catastrophic. People dying there is catastrophic. But it takes, because it's a slow kill for a lot of them. But there's a lot of them dies right away, right? And like for cardiac diseases, and death rates might give the creeps to some people. So in just 1 month, there was an extra 12,700 people died of heart attacks. But don't forget, there was an extra 875,000 cancers. Not everybody was diagnosed. Not everybody got health care. Not everybody gets cancer. There's heart problems, liver problems, lung problems. Kishida demands China removal of fisheries import ban. Oh, good for Kishida. Bless his heart. I demand. I wouldn't eat anything from the Pacific Ocean. Holy shit. After the research, like I done a video last weekend, or Thursday night. It was almost 3 hours. They jacked over 2 minutes of the video 12 hours later. The whole story's insane, isn't it? You can't look at nuclear without being disgusted. It's what we got to do now. Everybody worships nuclear, right? Oh, God bless nuclear. And the nuclear industry is, that's what they do. They worship nuclear 24 hours a day. Nuclear is their god, right? They picked up 30 million one-ton bags, which was a fraction of the prefecture. Just 3% of the livable, habitable land where they wanted to move people back to. 30 million one-ton bags. So it's very difficult for the average person to wrap their mind around, and I get that. But it's not that difficult. Japan Prime Minister demanded that Beijing immediately lift a ban on imports of Japanese fishery products during a meeting with Chinese Premier in Seoul on Sunday. China imposed a ban last August 24th after Japan's crippled #1 nuclear disease factory, these are not crippled, they're completely destroyed, started discharging treated, and then they say water, tritium. Like when you pick up 30 million one-ton bags in your country and just 3% of the land in a single prefecture because of a nuclear event, and suggest that the only thing that got out was some tritium, because like every time it rains, Japan hemorrhages radiation, the entire country does. Not only, and a lot of that is, through evaporation back into the atmosphere. A lot of it's burned in the incinerator across the countries. They're still doing that. They can't get rid of the sewage across the country because it's too radioactive. And every year you're talking about way more one-ton bags than that. They can't get rid of the sediment from the water filtration facilities because it's too radioactive, which means all your fresh water is completely radioactive. That's why there's 865,000 cancers in the first year, by the way. Extra cancers. They can't get rid of the ashes from the incinerators because they're so radioactive. And so when you burn garbage and the ashes left over are at 80,000 atoms of cesium alone, not counting everything else, but just cesium per kilogram, this is literally the definition of scumbag stupid. And the Democratic and Revolutionary Party's impeachment of Yoon, which is South Korea's current president, they claim is a moral act that exceeds the golden restrict. Sensitive media news is news agency. So apparently, facets of the South Korean government is talking about impeaching the president, which was a former prosecutor who denied Fukushima happened. And so I hope they stick him in jail for 1 billion years, this guy right here. He's a despicable piece of work, this guy. Right, because the previous administration was phasing out nuclear in South Korea. And right, and then Yoon, who got there by deceit, became a pro-nuclear. Yoon, the first day, his first day as the president of South Korea, he went to the local nuclear power plant and got his videos and pictures taken at a nuclear plant in front of the gate with the workers in order to promote, and then announced they're going to promote the nuclear industry. Everybody cheered because stupid, it doesn't go by itself, right? Protest continues against Japan's further discharges of nuke-contaminated water. Nuke-contaminated water. Although Japanese media is promoting that the water treated through the Advanced Liquid Processing System, or ALPS, only contains tritium, CANDU, nice name, man. The Japanese government, TEPCO, always tells the media to call it ALPS treated water, but it's not. You can't treat Because they had the Riva system, they had the Series system, they had the Cumbrian system. None of these can work. All the atoms are the same size. You can't filter out one atom and leave another atom there. It's the most absurd and stupid suggestion imaginable. Saying that calling in nuclear contaminated water causes, you guessed it, harmful rumors. Harmful rumors. The truth is so harmful. It's only harmful to the scumbag nuclear industry, right? By forcing us to call it ALPS treated water, TEPCO and the government are trying to evade responsibility. The only reason TEPCO exists, of course, is so you don't blame the nuclear industry when the shit hits the fan. That's their fall guy, right? And they go bankrupt and then they're gone and everybody goes back to sleep and we have no more whales or birds or insects. There'll be nothing left for the future generation as it is, but we have to fight and try. CANDU said the Japanese government should change its policy to avoid discharging nuclear contaminated water into the ocean. Again, because they're perpetrating the deceit that is tritium and that the releases only started August the 24th of last year, right? This is just absolutely inconceivable that. And that's their narrative, and they got no. If they can't change it, of course. Like I'll believe them when you can show me where the fuel pool is at the top of reactor 4 that they're claiming they're in, which is about 140 feet above the stump you're seeing right there. Now, if you owned that stump there, would you try to rebuild that, or would you razz it all the way to the ground? Right? Like if that was you owned that building, which was 190 foot, 65 meter, 19-story building, and when you came back from vacation, that was what was left of the building over there, to your left. Would you try to repair that, or would you just razz it all the way to the ground? And because they're suggesting that all of these, and that's just a fraction of them that done that, are saying that they're in the fuel pool at the top of the buildings. Yeah. How are we doing here tonight? 11:34 for me. It's 25 to 11. Protest continues after Japan's further discharges of nuclear contaminated water. And this story was today. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the degenerates of degenerates, the monsters really, and said Japan's discharge of so-called ALPS treated water is in line with international safety standards. Lee says he doesn't trust the International Atomic Energy much because they basically use Japan's investigation results without doing their own independent investigation, which we talk about a lot, right? And International Atomic Energy has even made those assertions recently, right? In his opinion, the reason why the Japanese government does not stop this is probably because they do not want to shut down the nuclear power plants and they want to protect their interests related to nuclear power generation. And, they're monsters. They're actually real-life hideous monsters. Oh, so I put a video up this morning at a BitChute on Israel. And it's about an hour and a half long. It's a very detailed video. It's one of those really informative videos. It's meant to quantify the ICC, the International Criminal Court's accusations and arrest warrants for Benjamin Malchkovic, who changed his name to Benjamin Netanyahu because he's not an actual Semite, right? He's a European. And Gallant, the defense minister. And then I put in Benjamin Molshkovic, is that how you pronounce it? I think his original name. He changed it, right, to make himself look more Jewish. All past Israeli prime ministers who changed their name to make themselves seem more Jewish, eh? None of them are Semites. None of them was, born and raised in Palestine. The Palestinians are Semites. So they can't be anti-Semite, because they're Semites, right? They're from that place for thousands of years, unlike the Jews, right? But anyway, it's a very informative video. It's up in my BitChute, Dana Durnford on BitChute, if you're up to that kind of stuff. It was a fucking lot of work. I've been doing it for several days in the background. And so this morning I just went ahead and done it. Frig it. Okay, so then that leaves us a poll. Close down the poll. Should International Atomic Energy Agency detail how the endless radioactive fallout from nuclear fuel pools do not end up in farms? And yes, they should. And we appreciate everybody. And I want to remind everybody that watched the video, come back in a few minutes and watch a minute or two of this video so I get my view. Because when the video is over, none of your views are going to count. So if you come back later, that might register. But that's a new trick they've been doing for a couple of months to me now. When my video is over, I have no views. And to do these live streams it's the hardest way to do it. It's easier to just shoot the video and post it, right? So to do the live streams and not make any Freudian slips and stuff like that. And but the people that find the video strangers never been here before, hopefully they'll say to themselves, well, this is a live show from the day, so this must be still happening. I better check it out. So policymakers and investors in particular will look at it that way. Alrighty. End the poll there on 33 votes. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks for everybody. Hopefully the weather's going to be good tomorrow. We can get the Zodiac in the water and at least try out the motors if they're working. We'll get out and do some work. I think around Wednesday is when the weather is finally going to break, and it's going to be hot days. Not hot, but is it still like early spring kind of weather down here? Summer doesn't show up until the middle of July here. And so yesterday I didn't do anything, just work on this stuff. Same thing today, right? We're just trying to recover because we've put in a lot of work in the last couple of weeks. So that kind of works out. It went against my brain, but I wasn't going to go out in cold weather and rain for my first couple of days. It's just too hard. Have a great night. See everybody on the next show. Take care, folks.